Injury updates. Caligari. Douglas is like he's good to go.
Yeah, Lucas will be out. Douglas is good. He trained yesterday. He trained full today, so he's good. He looks strong. Yeah, he looks good. I think outside of that, everyone else is. Jalen will be out this weekend. So yeah, everyone else is good to go. So Lucas and Julian will be out.
Is any structural damage for Lucas, or just get him off his feet for a couple weeks, or?
No, it's more significant than that. So we're just finalizing what the next step in all of this process is for him, but it's not going to be a short one.
Have you talked to him about what he felt and?
Yeah. I mean, for him, he landed in a very awkward position where he was moving in one direction and his foot kind of landed pointed in the opposite direction, and as he kind of was pushing off there was a twist in the knee. He was uncomfortable, you could tell based off of his reaction. So yeah, for us is just finalizing, because he is with us on loan, it's finalizing kind of the next steps on how we work through all of the next stages of this together.
I guess Raheem is suspended for this game.
Raheem is suspended.
Julian Audio, I think, comes back in.
Yes.
Is that a fair to assume that?
Yep.
And then with Jalen, is it just getting to a point where you think you might have to shut him down for the rest of the year? Or?
It's possible. That's the assessment this week. He went through a few treatments over the last few weeks to see if we could get kind of the area to calm down and respond. He hasn't been out this week, so we'll see over the next couple days if it's trending towards that, or if we need to shut him down and move on to the next stage of things with him. And so that will kind of be decided as we get into this next few days, next week.
I mean, this is a crazy season. You've already had 3 guys that are already out the season out, and then you might look at 2 more here. Does that mean you have to address how the staff handles things going forward with guys, workload, training-wise during the week? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we assess everything all the time. I mean, when you look at take them in an individual's circumstances, Javier didn't play the week before. He was coming off of rest. It was the first half. He hadn't been put a ton of workload on him. He's on the move and twisting kind of in the wrong direction, handling the ball all at the same time. And 2 things that don't happen is when your foot's in the ground and your body's twisting a different direction than where it is, you're vulnerable. So that was the situation with him. As it goes with Martin, I mean, his was a contact injury. It ends up being somewhat ACL-like. It's not a tear of the ACL, but it's a 1 in a million where he gets contact on his leg, and it actually causes the damage. So there's nothing you can really do about that. As far as Lucas the other day, it's kind of the same. It's one of those where he's up in the air. Right, trying to manage a ball when he's up in the air, jumping off of his left foot, landing on his left foot, and the placement of his foot is in one direction and his body's moving in another direction. I don't know how, in talking with our docs and everybody else, we always are managing our situation as to what we can do to try to prevent these. And we're looking at every angle. We don't necessarily think it is. We've had a rhythm in terms of the way we've trained for not just at the Galaxy, but for the last 7 years. We had 1 ACL. Our whole 7 years at Toronto, it was 1 ACL. So nothing has really changed here, except for we've had a season where we have had some difficult circumstances. Gaston was a weird meniscus thing off of a short step. Again, I think it's the first half. Maybe towards the end of the first half. So you don't. Doesn't necessarily rule out some level of fatigue, because all those guys are guys who've played a lot of minutes for us over the course of the season, but they're also the guys who are the most consistent when it comes to their daily rehab, their daily preparation, the weight room, the strength. Like those, when you list the guys that we list off, they are amongst the top at their day-to-day discipline. And so yeah, sometimes, I mean, again, we reflect on everything we do here. We reflect on it especially with our medical team and Bert and everybody who's in support of us to make sure we're not putting players in a situation. But with many of these, it's a position, it's the body, and it's momentum, and where you're going. So we haven't had, this year as many soft tissue issues and hamstrings and stuff, knock on wood, calves, things like that have definitely been, that's where you tend to get a little more into workload and stuff when you're having those soft tissue stuff. We've been pretty solid on that side of things this year. Jalen his is for sure something that has to do with growing inflammation, a little bit of high volume types of stuff. But he was one that also came in like earlier than everybody else. He played national team games early. He's had to travel to national team games. He's definitely, for a young player who's still maturing, he's definitely gone through a lot of volume in the first 6-7 months of the season that maybe caught up with him a little bit.
Thoughts on St. Louis? You haven't played him in a couple months here. I think it was a 1-1 draw the last time you faced them there, back there. Yeah,
they're a tough team to play against. They do what they do and they do it well. They are not a team that fancies having possession. I think they may be the lowest team in the league in terms of possession. They're quite direct. They're powerful. They run hard. They will set up either in a mid-block press or a higher press, and they're looking to create some turnovers and transitions, of which they are very direct off of the first pass. I think they're number 1 in the league with 19 set-piece goals in all the different phases of set pieces, so they've been very dangerous there. And they're very direct, and their forwards are a handful. They run through the lines. They play balls in behind. They look for second balls. So they're good at what they do, and what they do is with the things that I just explained. They're not necessarily going to play through you in a lot of different, reorganize their shape or do a lot of things. They're a big, strong, powerful group that plays to who they are. So for us is to make sure that we want the game to look like our version of a game as much as possible. We have to be responsible with the ball. We have to not turn over the ball in areas where we can get hurt. I think we did a pretty good job there of managing the situations. We've got to be able to manage their direct play and their runners while trying to get pressure to the ball, so that they're not constantly just barraging us with balls into our box. And I think there's ways in our possession that we can organize, and we have to be able to threaten behind their back line too when they want to be aggressively stepping forward to press us. We've got to be able to threaten and get behind them and make them pay when they're over aggressive. I think those things exist in there for us. But I don't think we have to overly change what we knew. We need to be attentive to certain things, and we need to be responsible about our possessions, and we need to be responsible about our defensive positions behind our attacks, making sure that we don't expose ourselves unnecessarily. And we got to defend. We got to defend set pieces. When they show up in the game, they're a big, powerful, aggressive team. They will put things in dangerous areas, and you got to defend those moments.
With Leerdam and Zavaleta, will they be back for LAFC?
I believe they will be, yes.
Okay. So it's this game you really went in shorthanded?
This game we're a little lighter, specifically on the fullback positions, with Ra suspended and Kelvin away. Eric, we have Tony who can step in and give us some support. Eric obviously coming back will help us out. But yeah, we're a little bit lighter this week.
There was a stretch there with Ade. You went with Raheem instead of Ade there. Was that just what was your thinking there? Kind of since he's arrived, really, maybe a couple of weeks after he arrived, Raheem took over that spot. Well, held onto the spot instead of Julian there. What's been?
Yeah, I think like a lot of players, I think Julian, and especially young players, he came in. There's a lot of adrenaline, and there's a lot of positive things that come from that first step and early on. And then I think the league has a way of kind of punching you in the face a little bit, and it shows you how challenging it is. And he went through a stretch where we had 2 games at altitude in Salt Lake, and then we played in the heat of Houston, and he saw some of the demands that the league can have, probably after about 5-6 games and I felt like he was sort of went through a phase where he was learning. He was then now starting to try to adapt and figure out the game. He's an aggressive fullback, so he was also trying to learn some of the mature decisions about when to be aggressive, when to kind of hold. So there were some things there's a lot of things we really like about him, but some of it was just him adapting to overall a new environment, and to some of the decisions that we want him to be able to recognize a little bit clearer. And then we liked the rhythm that we had, which was, Ra maybe playing the first 60 and then Julian coming in to see things out, or vice versa, and using the 2 of them. And then over the last couple of games, we've just dealt with each of them have had their suspension issues and things like that. But I like them as a duo over there. I don't necessarily, because I think there's a time where Ra at about 60 minutes, if he gives us a lot of the up and down and running and some of those things where he needs to come out, because as he gets tired, sometimes you see that on the defensive side a little bit. And he's been more diligent with that, which is one of the things we've asked of him. So together, I really like them. I think they can support each other on that side, and they've become those guys for each other. Julian's young and he's still learning a few things, but we really love his upside, and his foundation is to be an aggressive defender, which we like. We're just trying to help him mature in understanding when to be aggressive, when to be a little more passive and deal with situations in a slightly different way. So it's just been a process. But Julian, he would have played in the last game. I'm sure he would have come in and given us something, but again, he wasn't available. So now it's his turn to start and give us what we need.
And also for a young defender, it doesn't hurt to sit and watch.
Yeah, of course. Especially when you're coming into a new league, you're seeing different guys every week, and again, reading. Sometimes we use the left backs in different ways, or the right backs in different ways. So for him to see those different ways that we're using his position can also help him to learn and to get comfortable.
All right, thanks, man.
Yep.
Thanks, Greg.